Hi, my name is Lily and welcome to my channel and welcome to my 24 books for 2024. So if you've been around for a little while, you will know that my 23 for 2023 went poorly. However, I am going to give it another go in 2024, see if I can do any better. In one of my previous videos, I talked about how I'm going to be on a book buying ban, and one of the ways that I can get points to earn more books is to read a book from my 24 from 2024 TBR. So here is that video, and here are the 24 books that I'm hoping to read in 2024. So these are just in alphabetical order, ignoring books that start with the or a. So let's get straight into it. First up, we have The Bromance Book Club by Alyssa K. Adams. This is an adult contemporary romance. The reason it's on my list is because this is one of the very first romances that I put on my wish list, and it is when I first started watching Hayley in Bookland, and she was a big romance reader at the time, and that was... Yes? And that was one that she spoke about that got me most excited. This one is about Gavin, who is a big shot baseball player. One day his wife comes to him and says that she has never once orgasmed during sex, and the resulting blow up means that she then asks him for a divorce. He is distraught and goes to his friends, only to discover that a lot of the top alpha men in this city have a secret romance book club, and they encourage him to join and to read some steamy romances to learn how to treat his wife better and win her back. This sounds really cute and really funny, so I'm really hoping I do get to this one if I get back into a romance reading mood, because right now I'm not really a big romance mood. Next, we have Bunny by Mona Awad. This is a dark academia / horror / thriller book. This one follows our main character as she begins to attend this elite creative writing course at university, and while she's there she discovers this group of girls who are called the Bunnies, who kind of move as one, and they're kind of this elite group. And one day she gets invited to join the Bunnies, and when she does, she kind of abandons her only friend, and this is about her discovering the dark side of the Bunnies, discovering why the previous bunny is no longer in the Bunnies, and how this results in danger for her previous best friend. Bunny has been on my TBR for a while now. I have seen very mixed things about it, and I really want to get to it before I lose my excitement for it. Then we have one that's a hangover from last year. That is A Darkling Plain by Philip Reeve. The reason I haven't read this one yet is because it is the final book in the Mortal Engines series, or the Hungry City series, depending on who you talk to, and I'm scared to let go of the series, and I do kind of need to reread some of the previous books to remember what is happening. This is my favourite series of all time, even though I haven't finished it yet, so I really do need to reread it and finish it. I can't tell you much about this book because it would be spoilers, but this is essentially a world where the cities now move on like tank wheels, and the bigger cities consume the smaller cities and hunt them down. And in the first book, our main character gets thrown off of his city and left in the wilds to survive. It's incredible, so I just need to finish it. Then we have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. So this one, I'm putting it on the list because it is incredibly hyped, and I want to read it before the hype dies down so that I am still hyped to read it. This is a young adult fantasy romance, and it is about two rival journalists who are both competing for the same columnist role. And at the moment, their world is currently undergoing this kind of magical war of the gods. The female main character's brother is on the front line of the War of the Gods, but her letters to him go missing and accidentally end up in her male rival's hands, which creates a magical bond between them. I'm not a huge fantasy romance lover, but this book is just so hyped for people who aren't really fantasy romance lovers that I need to give it a go. Then we have The Diviners by Libba Bray, which you can see right behind me. I have owned these Fairy Loot special editions for such a long time, and I really need to read them. So this one, I think, was one of the very first Fairy Loot special editions that I bought, and that they even made. So that's how long I have had these books. In this one, Evie is shipped off to 1920s New York to live with her uncle, who is obsessed with the occult. he gets called to assist with a murder where an occult symbol has been left on the body, and Evie realises that the magical powers that she has been keeping secret may be able to help solve this murder, and it draws her into the supernatural world she had no idea existed. It's really hyped, and I just need to read it. Part of the reason I put some special editions on here is because I really should read them to decide if I want to keep the special editions or sell them. Then we have Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. This one, again, I think I got it from a Lumacrate as a monthly book, and I just need to read it. I just need to read it because the second book is already out. I need to decide if I'm going to commit to this series or not, and if I do, I want them all in hardback, so I just need to get to it. I have a feeling it's going to be a DNF and a no from me because it's a dark fantasy, but we will see. I just want to give it a go. And so this one is about a world in which 30 years ago vampires decided they wanted to try and take over the world and destroy humanity, and 20 years ago was the last time there was a sunrise, so the vampires are now able to be out all day long. And the story is focused on Gabriel, who is kind of the last remaining member of the resistance against the vampires. He is imprisoned by them, and this is now him telling his story of how he ended up where he is. It's dark, it's a horror fantasy. I'm not sure it's going to be for me, so I really want to just give it a go and see if it's something I want to commit to or not. Next we have Jade City by Fonda Lee, which again is a special edition set that I need to decide if I want to keep or not. I was meant to be buddy reading this with someone last year, but that fell through, so I might try and find a new buddy reader for it. If not, I will just go for it. But this is an urban fantasy series that is set in a Godfather-esque, like, mafia style world in which people who have the right training are able to use Jade to gain superhuman abilities, and it is about tensions building between rival mafia families who have the ability to use Jade. So I don't know much more than that, and it is again a hyped one, but a hyped one from a few years ago because it is now a finished series, so I just want to know if I want to keep that special edition set or not. The next one, well, we're still here. It's Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I still haven't read Kingdom of Ash. It came out years ago. I was so excited for it when it came out, but you'll know this if you've been here for a while, I hated Tower of Dawn. It is the book where she went, "Oh, a disabled character, can't have that, let's cure them." And then she also goes, "Oh, we're going to send him to the only place we really know in this world that has non-white citizens as the majority, but he's going to fall in love with the only other white person there." What a wonderful book. It was just really poorly written anyway, if you ignore that. So I need to reread the series. I need to get to Kingdom of Ash. I'm on book 3 at the moment in my audiobook reread, but I just haven't had a ton of time for audiobooks lately. So I'm hoping the first half of 2024 gets me to Kingdom of Ash, and I can close the door on Throne of Glass. Also, I believe I do need to read this before I can read the next Crescent City book, so the time is a-ticking. Next on my list is Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco. This one is just on my list because I have owned it for a really long time and I just really need to read it and decide if I want to commit to the series. There is a theme going on here. This one is a young adult fantasy. I think it's young adult anyway, and in this one we have Amelia and Vittoria, who are twin sisters that are witches who live among humans secretly, and one day Amelia finds Vittoria dead and she swears to find the killer, whether that means using dark magic, which has been long banned. And she meets Wrath, who is one of like the wickeds from hell basically, and he says that he is on her side and wants to help her find her sister's killer, but not everything is as it seems. So yeah, I just want to know if I want to read the series or not. Next on my list is A Man Called Ove by Frederick Buckman. This one I have on my list because I wanted to read it before the movie came out and I never did. And my current in-person book club loved this book when they read it before I was a member, and I keep hearing about how amazing it is, how much I need to read it, and also I believe Amy's book club read this before I was a member as well and they all loved it, so I'm just getting a lot of people saying I need to read it and I will love it. This one is translated from Swedish, I think, I could be wrong, but it is about a grumpy old man called Ove who is kind of described as the bitter neighbour from hell. Everybody around him doesn't like him. They think he's this really grumpy, horrible old man. But he's kind of the belief that why is he so grumpy, apparently, just because he doesn't walk around with a smile. But his world is turned upside down when a young couple with their 2 young daughters move in next door, and they accidentally knock over his postbox, which triggers a train of events where they start to get to know each other and reveal Ove's sad story. And yeah, I think it'll be good. It sounds like a bit of a mixture of contemporary and literary fiction, and a readable, cozy, a little bit sad but slightly uplifting read, which is really what I'm enjoying right now. Then I also have Middlegame by Seanan McGuire. This one has been on my TBR for years. I first heard about this one from Book Browsing Blog, and the way they talked about this book was just so engaging, and like I was so excited based on their description of it, and so I really want to read it, but I'm intimidated by how big of a book this is. This is an adult fantasy / sci-fi / horror. In it we have Roger and Dodger, who are twins that are not quite human but not quite gods, and the person who created them called Reed. And basically Reed wants to bring them up in the world and essentially get them to their godlike level of ascent, and in doing so claim that position for himself. So I don't really know much more about it. I don't know how it's such a thick book, but I love the Wayward Children series so much that I am willing to give Seanan McGuire this shot to impress me. Bit of a tone shift again. My next one is Midnight Sun by Stephanie Garber. This is the Twilight book told from the perspective of Edward Cullen, if you didn't know. This was meant to come out a very long time ago, but it was cancelled due to some leaks, but it did eventually come out again. And yeah, I never read it. I own it. I wasn't going to read it at all, but then I actually heard people saying it was better than I thought it was going to be, and it became a very Marmite book on BookTube and Bookstagram. So some people loved it, some people hated it, and now I've decided I need to give it a go for myself. And I've decided if I'm not going to try and read it this year, then I'm never going to try and read it, and I need to get rid of it. I would also like to read Now I Rise by Kirsten White. This is the second book in the Conqueror's saga. I believe this is a retelling of historical events, but I can't remember what it is. And in this one we follow Lada, Radu and Mehmed. The first book is about Lada and Radu being abandoned by their father the king to be raised by the Ottoman Sultan in his court, and their friendship and relationship that forms with his son and heir Mehmed. I loved book 1. Absolutely loved it. I was so surprised because I'm not usually a historical fiction fan, but there's something about the writing that I just adored, and I just haven't managed to pick up book 2. I don't know why. So I think my plan for this one is to read a summary of book 1 and then pick up book 2. Then I have The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. This one I have had for a while, and that's kind of why it's on this list, because I picked it up because I was recommended by a friend rather than because I was interested in it, and so I really want to like make myself give it a try soon so I know whether to keep it or not before I eventually move out of my parents' home. And this one is kind of a historical fantasy. I don't know a lot about it, but I believe it's set during the women's suffrage movement, and it's about a group of suffragettes deciding to reconnect with witchcraft in order to progress the suffragette movement. And yeah, that's all I really know. I know some people that really love this, some people that thought it was very mid, so we'll see. Then we have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. Now that the whole trilogy is complete and I have all 3 of them, I want to read the first one and then the rest in one go, and I want to read them this year. This is a spin-off series from the Caraval trilogy, which is one of my favourite books of all time. And so this one follows Evangeline Fox, who is about to get married, and in order to halt the wedding, because she doesn't think this is the man of her dreams, she makes a deal with Jax, the Prince of Hearts, who is from the Caraval series. And in doing so, she promises him 3 kisses when he wants them. And after he requests the first kiss, she begins to realise that bargaining with Jax was more than she thought it was going to be, and things could go wrong for her. So this is kind of a fantasy romance, and I love Caraval. I was going to read these ones as they came out, but I decided I know I'm going to love this trilogy, so I decided to wait until they were all out and then read them, which is what I'm hoping to do this year because they're all out now. Next is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, the first book in the Monk and Robot duology. These are very, very short books. If you've been here for a while, you'll know that last year I read Wayfarers by Becky Chambers, the entire series, and I absolutely loved it. It's so good. A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is my new all-time favourite book. I adored it. And so I want to keep the Becky Chambers train going, and I want to read those books this year, the Monk and Robot books, so that I don't delay, don't put it off like I do with some of my other books. This one is another kind of sci-fi book. Hundreds of years ago, there were these robots that were kind of artificially intelligent, and one day they downed tools and walked away, and they have since become myth and legend. But in the modern day, there is a tea monk who tells the story of and the myths of these robots, and one day when he's doing so, a robot appears and asks him to honour the age-old guarantee that a robot can always check in. And this robot then asks him, what do the humans need from us? And he cannot go back until he gets an answer to that question. And obviously it's a very complicated question. I'm expecting it to be beautiful and sad and gay, so that's all I need. Next on my list is Scarlet by Marissa Meyer, which is the second book in the Lunar Chronicle series. I read the first book a while ago now and I loved it, and I immediately ordered the next 3 in the series and then never picked them up. So I just really need to. I don't know anything about book 2 because I believe the books are kind of standalones in the series, but they interconnect and come together in the final book, I think, is what I understand. So I've not looked into what this one is about. I want to be surprised, and yeah, hopefully I will get to it and finish that series. I would also like to read Seven Devils by L.R. Lamb and Elizabeth May. This is a sci-fi space opera, and the reason it's on my list is because one of the authors is autistic, and so I'd really like to read more autistic authors next year. In this one, Eris has faked her own death. She is the heir of an expanding empire in space, and she fakes her own death to get away from that. She then joins the resistance against this empire. They give her a task along with another person to infiltrate the empire once again, and to gather intelligence to send back to the resistance. The person she is paired with has a huge grudge against her, which is making it very difficult, but when they do infiltrate, they meet 3 people who are being held hostage who know a lot about the inner workings of the empire, and they must get these secrets out. I believe this is a duology and I am very hopeful for it. I love me a space opera. Next on my list is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This would be my first Sanderson novel if I picked it up, and it is a space opera, so that's why I'm very excited to give this a go as my first Sanderson. My dad actually read the first book last year and loved it, so that is kind of why I would like to read it. I have also been collecting this series in hardback, so I should read it so I know if I want to keep those hardbacks, right? In this one, humanity has kind of been under attack by this mysterious alien force for a very long time. They have now been retreating and they're on this tiny one planet that they are trying to defend. And Spencer, our main character, has longed to be a pilot as part of the resistance for a very long time. She finds a wreckage of a ship and realises if she is able to fix this ship up, she can take it to pilot school and become part of the resistance and part of the army. But the problem is, this spaceship seems to have some kind of sentience, and she needs to persuade it to let her do all of those things. It sounds fun, it sounds silly, and I love a space opera. Next on my list is A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. This is a young adult fantasy novel. In this one you follow Malik, who is escaping from his war-torn town to go to the prosperous desert city, and when he arrives there, his sister is kidnapped. And he is offered the deal that if he kills the crown princess, he can save his sister's life. Then we also follow the crown princess, whose mother has recently died. Her court is now rebelling against her as the new ruler, and she decides to try and resurrect her mother's life, and to do so she must sacrifice the beating heart of a king. She decides to have a competition, the winner of which will get her hand in marriage so she can sacrifice them to resurrect her mother. Malik enters the competition to try and kill her, and she will try and kill him. I believe it's enemies to lovers, and it's meant to be quite a fun fantasy, so yeah, I've had it on my list for a very long time, and I would like to know if I want the second book, because I think Fairy Loot still have some of the second book in special edition, so hopefully I can read it this year and know if I want the special edition of book 2. Next we have A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid, which is I think a young adult dark academia / fantasy. The reason this one is on my list is because, again, it is very, very hyped and I would like to read it while the hype is still alive. In this one we follow Effie. I think she's an architecture student and she believes in fairy tales because she keeps having these recurring dreams of the king of the fairies, and she has always held on to this book written by an author about the king of the fairies and his story. She finds out that the family of that author are offering this competition to essentially redesign the author's home. She decides to enter and arrives at the family's home to do so, but they're not very welcoming, and that includes another scholar who is there, a literature scholar, who is currently staying at the home, reading through the late author's stuff to try and prove that she was lying. But in piecing together what they find in her house, they realise that dark magic is afoot. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Next on my list is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This one is on my list because I was very lucky at YALC that at the publisher's table they had almost the entire series in hardback, and I had been very kindly gifted some of them in hardback by Beth from Books Nest, but I didn't have the complete series. So while I was at YALC I had a look to see which ones I had, which ones I didn't have, so now I have the entire series in hardback. And I've only paid very small amounts for them because obviously at YALC you buy books very heavily discounted. So I'm excited about that, and I would like to read the series because I think there might be more books coming and I want to know if I want to continue collecting them in hardback. So this is a YA mystery thriller series, and in the first book there is this very prestigious private school and boarding school, and the person that founded it kind of made it twisty and turny and wanted learning to become a game and living in the house to be a game. And shortly after the school opened, his wife and daughter disappeared. The person who took credit for it signed the letters Truly Devious and has become one of the great American mysteries, what happened to his wife and daughter. Then a true crime aficionado is about to start her first year at the school, and she decides that when she gets there she is going to solve the mystery of what happened and who Truly Devious was. But not long after she arrives, Truly Devious resurfaces and Death once again comes to the school. So it sounds awesome. I loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and people have comped this to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, so good to know. Next we have A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the final book in the A Curse So Dark and Lonely trilogy, or the Cursebreakers trilogy, and yeah, I just want to finish this series already. I loved book 1 and 2. 2 is very different to 1, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all resolves, but I just need to get there. This series starts with a Beauty and the Beast retelling in which a girl from the real world, or our world, gets kidnapped and taken to a magical world, and in this magical world the prince must make her fall in love basically, and not allow her to be afraid of his magical form, and he has failed many times, and it's really good. So yeah, I just need to finish the series. And the final one on my list is another one that I just need to finish the series. That is Vulture by Bex Hogan, which is the last book in the Isles of Storm and Sorrow trilogy. I love book 1 and 2. I just need to read book 3. That is it. So in the first book, this is a pirate fantasy, and it's another young adult fantasy. And in this one, we have a girl who is the daughter of the Viper. The Viper is kind of this military peacekeeping guy who's in charge of keeping the peace among the Isles of the Storm and Sorrow, but he is very corrupt, and his daughter does not believe in that, and so she decides to try and run away and get away from him, and it's about what happens after that point. It's a dark fantasy, a lot of dark stuff happens, but it's not super dark because it's YA, and I love it, so I just need to finish the series. Can you notice a theme? So those are my 24 books I'd like to read in 2024. I'd love to know if there's any of these that you have read and loved and you think I should prioritise. There's a definite theme of I want to finish my series, and I want to know which books I want to keep and which books I want to unhaul, because I am moving hopefully next year. We're hoping to buy a home next year, and yeah, I need to know what's going on. I need to know which books to keep and which books to get rid of, and try and reduce how much I'm packing to move, because oh my god, do I have so many books and so many unread books at that. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to see more content from me. All of my social media links are in the description below. And if you would like to leave me a comment to let me know you are here, leave me some form of ice cream emoji in the comments below. Thank you again. Bye.